614 Startups Nation, welcome back to another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. My name is Elio Harmon. Man, I'm a little bit rusty. I haven't been in this chair. Whenever I sit down, I feel great because I have another dynamic founder to introduce you to, Brock Leonti of Prescribe FIT. Brock, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Elio. Thank you very much. Thanks for
having me. I've been watching the work that you've been putting in over at your company. I'm a big LinkedIn guy, so I see what's happening. I see the updates. And then I get to meet you, man. You're handsome. You're all swole. You're raising multiple rounds of funding. You're getting it done in this business thing. But we got to go back to where it all started. All right. So how'd you get your start in entrepreneurship?
Oh, boy. Okay. So you're taking me way back. I'll take you back to high school. I always loved animals. And there was a time where I was in our basement, a finished basement. And I thought, ooh, I want to start a Save the Rainforest Foundation. So nothing ended up coming for it, but that was kind of like, as I think back, one of the first times that I thought, oh man, I need to do something to help change the world and just make a difference. But really where it started was in college. I was looking for a job to help pay for my way through Ohio State University. And as I was looking through that, I found an early on network of websites that needed an advertising representative. And so what I did was I worked my way up in there and actually became the exclusive broker for the websites there and the advertising spots that they had on it. And then from there, it kind of continued on. I did that for several years, went through OSU, graduated, and decided that because of a need in my family, we would start a healthcare agency, and it was a home health agency and a home health or home care agency, both Medicare, Medicaid certified, and then the opposite side, which is just the private pay portion of that. And through the need of my grandfather, we decided to do that. And it was me and my mother. She was up in the Cleveland, Akron area, and I was down here in Columbus. And we had our two offices and accepting clients and navigating our way through the complexities of Medicare and ensuring that we had the clinical staff that were right for the business. So really, that's kind of where it all started, in the healthcare arm of things, and kind of how that seed was planted to lead to where we were with Prescribe FIT. There's a couple more steps in there if I can add a little more color. We had one year where we were striving to grow, and we had a barrier of staffing. We couldn't find some staffing, so we thought, okay, well, how do we do this, right? We want the best of the best people. That was one of our value propositions. And so from there, we decided, all right, let's train them up. Let's start a school. We'll start an adult career college, and we'll get folks to come in. They'll pay their way through the course, and then we'll just offer them a job and accept them as employment into the home care agency. And so that grew like wildfire. I mean, we just had students coming in, classes were filling up. We decided to expand programs. And then we started a full-fledged adult career college that eventually sold in 2013, expanded to 4 different campuses. It's still operating today. And they're even looking to expand into nursing and both types of nursing, RN, LPN, and whatnot. So all those things are sort of kind of where I got started. It was just really trial and error and kind of trying to make it work, making mistakes, picking yourself back up and going from there. So as you know, I mean, there's no book on entrepreneurship. It's just.
Yeah, there isn't, man. And you're a founder after my own heart, man. I got my healthcare started in home health and hospice most recently. So I know the world that you're in. It is dog eat dog. And yes, staffing is always an issue. So I love the creativity by, hey, instead of just complaining about the problem, looking for a solution. That seems to be the theme in your career. Let me ask you this about your experience in home health, hospice, and then running an adult vocational school, if that's an appropriate description. What about that experience prepared you for what you're doing now?
Oh, okay. So I think the biggest thing that just me personally and kind of talking through personal stories is that learning how to be resilient and learning that no isn't really a thing. Like actually one of our VPs here at Prescribe FIT said, you're like the little brother I never had. You just never hear the word no. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. I think, when you come up against adversity, there's another path or there's another way, and just really thinking and allowing yourself a blank slate to think through how to get through that is a personal thing. I remember at one point when we were starting the school, there was a time where we learned that we needed a special certification that we were unaware of. And so, we came up to the point where we figured we needed that. It put us about 6 weeks behind. But what we did in that point was we built out a website that was kind of the bread and butter feeder for the school. It allowed students to apply online and do all that. And so that became then the catalyst for even further growth after we were able to operate effectively. So, as I look through that, I think that those kind of things personally really helped. The other thing too was, keeping myself and like really mentally healthy and physically healthy were definitely, good things. Because that's what Prescribe FIT is all about. It's all about kind of being the leader of your own health. If you really take it to the core of what we are asking our patients to do, it's that. So, and by the way of a physician's prescription, but something's got to start from somewhere, right? The physician, someone you trust, says, hey, let's prescribe this program to you, but you are the one that holds the key in the path to your success. So, so those kind of things are two things that I think have really helped. And then the final is, in the school, it was called LaRock Healthcare Academy, keyword healthcare in there. And we added in a program for personal training. And I remember everyone said, why personal training? That's not really healthcare. And I'm like, oh, sure is. Like, it sure is. Like any type of movement and activity and physical activity is a form of healthcare. And we need to start accepting that as in the American healthcare system here.
Yeah, I resonate so much with resilience. I've been at this 614 Stardust podcasting for a very long time. There's the ebbs and flows of it. Sometimes it's inevitable, right? As a human, when you're dealing with problems in your business, the easy thing is to give up. But if you believe in what you're doing, you have to have that perseverance. You have to have that resilience and that creativity, not just to sit there and kind of bang your head against the wall, but actually try to find solutions that ultimately get you out of that situation. So you're a problem solver. Let's jump right into Prescribe FIT. What problem are you solving? Who do you solve it for? And how do you solve it?
All right. Yeah, very simply. So I'll summarize it into one word. We'll just kind of go from the top down, right? It's orthobesity. And we've coined that term. And we're trying to get that term out there. Large in part, this has been something that, and I'll explain exactly what that is, but something that the orthopedic industry, your bone and joint doctors have talked about for years, if not over a decade. But then there's been no solution out there that has been effective at solving this widespread. Practices will try to put in a solution to help treat patients living with obesity and a musculoskeletal issue combined. There's a lot of implications that, and a lot of different effects that obesity has on the musculoskeletal system and our body in general. But through the orthopedic physician, we're able to issue a prescription to patients to help modify lifestyle. And we're looking at lifestyle as just everyday changes, small little changes to your behavior. So your sleep patterns, your stress patterns, what you eat, how you move around, and the intentional intensity of your physical activity or your physical self. And other things too, like smoking cessation, alcohol reduction, and whatnot. So as we go through, the daily routine with the patients, we're able to recommend changes and help motivate those patients to make the change. And we look at, the effectiveness of that through some of the outcomes that we produce. What we are really solving for is someone to be the leader of their own health and someone to take that into their own hands. I think right now we're in an era where we love, the easy fix on things, right? And so we go through life and we say, okay, well, how can I get through this efficiently, or how can I make this the easiest path possible? And truly, it is much easier when you just know those decisions to make on a daily basis, and you kind of just innately and naturally do it. So the whole thing, just to bring it full circle back to the top, is really helping an orthopedic surgeon take their patient population that's living with obesity and reduce the excess weight. Just to give you a couple stats, like for every 1 pound of excess weight on the body, it's 4 pounds of pressure on the knee and hip joint. So, if you're carrying around 40 extra pounds of weight, it's 160 pounds that you're carrying around and pressure on those joints. And it's 1 in 10 for the lower back. So 1 on the stomach kind of extends the lower back, and it feels like 10 pounds of pressure on that. So there's a lot more stats. I mean, we can keep going. This has been large in part, it's all part of guideline-based treatments from national organization for people much smarter than I am, and that have been studying this for years, and with tens of thousands, if not more, patients, orthopedic patients across the U.S. So, and the final thing too is surgery is also a piece of this as well. So, for a good number of the patients that go into an orthopedic practice, they are going to have the extreme intervention of surgery, and we'll help prep them for surgery. The outcomes are better. They'll heal faster. They'll have more energy. They'll be able to just get through the whole experience in a much more healthy way.
This episode is brought to you by Rev1. Rev1's mission is to help entrepreneurs build great companies. As you navigate the waters of business entrepreneurship, you don't have to go it alone. A strategic partnership with Rev1 connects innovators to the talent, customers, space, and funding you need when you need it. Get started with Rev1 Startup Studio by visiting rev1ventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is rev1ventures.com. This episode is brought to you by KJK. Tired of the billable hour? KJK has a solution. The KJK GC Advantage program offers businesses comprehensive legal services in the areas of employment, corporate services, real estate, trademark, intellectual property, and estate planning, all for a set monthly fee. KJK serves as their clients' partners in business, not just their lawyers. Along with cost certainty and predictability, the KJK GC Advantage program gives clients peace of mind, knowing their projects will be handled quickly and efficiently, maximizing the return on investment on their legal spend. So don't go it alone, let KJK help. Learn more by visiting kjk.com. Right, so if I heard you correctly, you work with orthopedic surgeons around solving this. Look, is it fair to call it an epidemic, a pandemic of orthobesity?
Epidemic would be the correct.
Okay, so there are a lot of us
right.
out there, and I'm guessing this is primarily in the United States, and the United States is a big enough market as it is anyway with people dealing with obesity. But let's help the listener understand if there is a difference between obesity just in the medical sense and orthobesity. And can you please give us maybe some numbers, right? What are we thinking about? How many pounds overweight would be considered an orthobese person, or maybe even another term you might coin, an ortho overweight at risk of orthobesity person?
That's right. Yep. So I'll try to break down your question and get to everything, and you can remind me if there's something that you're asked that I'm not touching on. But we have the need in the population really arises from the way that we're living every day, right? So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, out of what the CDC has deemed, to be an epidemic of obesity, and for it to be an epidemic, every state or the areas need to have over 20% of its population obese. And currently, right now, across the United States, it's 42.4 as of the last census and the last time they took that. So it's about, let's just call it 140 million people. I mean, give or take, right? So when we look at that, about 50% of people will have some sort of orthopedic issue in a year, in a time frame. So the market is rather large in the United States. They're going to go see one of 31,000 orthopedic providers across the US. And we target about 15,000 of those, which are in independent practice. They tend to be an independent practice in the smaller towns, which make up most of America, right? And then they'll form a conglomerate practice in the interior of the cities and whatnot. So that's kind of what the market looks like. When we're talking orthobesity in that specific patient, it's someone that presents in the practice, usually with extra pain, with the extra weight. Of course, that's the top indicator, but then also the sort of inability or maybe the challenge of moving around, of having less energy, of sitting or of being still and stagnant most of the time. They say sitting is the new smoking. I mean, those are the kind of things that really challenge the body and the musculoskeletal system to work harder, is when you don't actually continue to exercise and continues to keep it going, right? So when a provider, an orthopedic surgeon or another provider, is looking at the patient and kind of determining what to do, they'll talk to the patient about the things that they're doing every day, maybe the limitations they have, and talk to them about, all right, well, you have a garden that you usually like to keep, or grandchildren that you played around with and now you can't. And they watch the patient over time and kind of make recommendations on things to help them. One of those things that we all know about is physical therapy. So, you would go into physical therapy, and the therapist and the physician together might make certain recommendations to someone to lose weight or to help them through that. But they're not as strong as a program to follow through with. So as you know, and this is a stat that kind of came from a national joint replacement organization. From the time on average that a patient hears that they're going to probably need some sort of intervention for their joint to when surgery happens, it's about a 7-year period. Now, what that means is when you look way back at the first clinical notes that a general provider might have made in their file like years ago because someone's knee was just clicking or, there was some extra pain, but they took it through physical therapy successfully. That's what that looks like. So through that time, we're also then not moving around as much in the patients, and we see that. So that's where you go from you'd say at risk for an obese patient with a musculoskeletal issue that's overweight at that time to someone that is then obese. We see that it's challenged as time continues and as the musculoskeletal issue worsens. So generally, though, when that's like real high level, and as we look at this, we're looking at, okay, well, how do we follow the journey of a patient, and maybe what's another market for us, which could be primary care down the line. But our current market is when the patient has that issue that is challenging them right then. The musculoskeletal pain is extreme. Their limitations are further. Their joint is compromised, and they see that orthopedic surgeon, and they're really ready for some assistance. That's when Prescribe FIT steps in.
Okay, so it sounds like I have the knee clicking, I have more back pain, and I know, although maybe on camera I don't look it, man, I've packed on a couple pounds around the midsection, and it's like, oh, well, am I exercising too much? Am I lifting a little bit too heavy? Well, maybe the problem is that I'm carrying extra few pounds, and I'm in that 7-year window. I'm maybe becoming ortho overweight. And if I don't address my problem and I continue to pack on the pounds, I might become ortho obese and end up with an orthopedic surgeon who's trying to advise me about the services that you provide. So you target about 13,000 of these folks. Why did you said, yeah, and I agree with you, most of America is rural. Why was it important to go after the independents in rural America? Why did that make sense for you as a target market?
Sure. Yeah. And we don't just go after the rural areas, but they tend to be there a lot because you'll have health systems that kind of buy up the practices within a city, right? But that's not true across the board. That's some. So like, for instance, in the state of North Carolina, there's a large orthopedic practice that's independent that covers the whole state, made of about 170 surgeons there that is a client of ours. So as we look at this, we decided the independent market because there tends to be, and we'll just kind of, just be direct about it. There tends to be a lot of red tape within a health organization, right? So we look at that. You have to have approvals from the top to bottom. They're making decisions that might be system-wide instead of specialty specific. And so when looking at a solution, we are specific to orthopedics. Now, I would argue that, yeah, you'd want a solution that is specific to specialties, right? We're providing a very specific service to a population that's got a large number of people in it. And we can do that effectively by being so good at this one thing that we're doing, right? It sounds like one thing is small, but it really isn't. It's a larger, complex thing. And as we get to talk about funding and we get to talk about growth, there have been challenges that we have had, because we're so specific in one area. So when we look at that, our independent practices, they make decisions like a smaller business. And that's how we can go into this, and we can work with them and their leadership team, which may sometimes be the surgeon or maybe a board of surgeons. So the same people that are making the decision to put us in place are the same people that will be utilizing us, or maybe they have a CEO in place. So there's things there that allow us to really integrate more into that practice. And that's what Prescribe FIT is about. When I first started this, I'll just share this a little tidbit. And it's like, for any founder, if they're listening out there or whoever, oftentimes where you start isn't where you will end up. And just being open to that is really, it's a challenge, but it's also a blessing. It's also something that is helpful to know and consider. So what I thought we would be is just a really great software solution. We would take this to practices, and the physicians would use it, and the practice staff would, and they would hire some people up, and we'd help them through that. But they would generally be the ones to use it. And that's not at all what happened. We are a full service solution. So we essentially plug in play to the practice and have everything ready to go for the practice. I mean, even from the brochures that they hand out to the patients, to any phone calls that they get from patients, to helping enroll the patient, sending the scale, from our shipping partner directly to the patient's house, pairing it together. I mean, all those things, and then coaching the patient all the way through the program and helping them bill insurance. Everything is included in. So that was our journey. As we begin to unpack that, kind of how we took this. We had to take one step, and then we thought, okay, maybe this is where we end up. And it wasn't. It kept needing to be built upon, and the solution became packed with services and offerings that really helped the practice bring this to life.
Yeah, I love the fact that you went after somebody who is in control of their decision making, and they're also acutely aware of how important outcomes are. Because you're in ortho, right? In Medicare, Medicaid, they're not just paying you to do a bunch of surgeries. Yeah, they're paying you for the surgery, but they're actually paying you for the outcome, which is why our healthcare system needs reform anyway.
Yeah, sure thing. So their feedback to us has been great. And the part that we, really had to work our way through and sort of just check the boxes on all these things that they were offering to us as feedback are the extra things that the product or company became, right? So in and of itself, what the product is it's an app that's on the Android or iOS platform. It's a scale that we've manufactured ourselves with a custom Bluetooth protocol. It's like no pairing protocol. You literally step on the scale, open the app, and it transfers. You don't have to hold the P button on the thing and wait for it to pair and do all that kind of stuff. It's really simple. And then it's a coach and a person that is there to help hold you accountable, give you some guidance, help you through things, motivate you, pick you up when you feel like you can't do something, and really just be there and say, hey, you can, and this is what we are going to do next. Or what do you think you can do if this is not something, right? It's sort of that negotiation piece, coaching piece, which is part of negotiation there, that we offer to the patient. So that's the product in and of itself. Then what do we do to help the practice accept this is we help them through everything else that requires extra work to help make that product work, right? So in the beginning, we help them get this set up. We contact their billing person. We look at their allowables for each payer. We help break that down into a P&L statement so that way they can see what this will produce for them. There's top line and bottom line, advantages for our program. So they do earn some new revenue. It's an ancillary service line that is a profit center for them. So then once we do that, we get them started and we get them going through setup. We help outreach to their patients, which is the biggest portion of this. That was our challenge at first. And that's getting patients to really hear about this thoroughly and understand it. Elio, if you were a orthopedic patient and you needed, physical therapy, PT, you could go to your neighbor probably on the right side or left side and ask them what their experience was. And someone probably went through physical therapy, right? Or you could Google or chat GPT that now and it'll come up. You can't do that with Prescribe FIT. I mean, you can look at our website, but what they really need is someone there to help them through why this is an important piece of their healthcare at this point. So we help do that, educate the patient and get them started. And then we coach and we help them bill. So we get, it's a little bit different the way you bill these codes to insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurances than it would be for a visit to the practice. You see the physician, you get to bill for it, right? This is a monthly service that requires criteria to bill that are a little bit different. So our software calculates that and produces billing reports for them. So all that is our product. And many of those things that I was just describing after that is sort of the things that we had to figure out that were challenges. And we're like, oh, here's another thing we have to get through. Here's one more, oh, there's a blocker here. Like, what do we do? And that's why the independent market was better too, because, we can work with them a little bit more routinely and one-on-one to be able to solve for those things.
Hey there, 614 Startups community. We're thrilled to share some exciting news with you. This podcast is proudly supported by Loop, the game changers in return management. Not only are they revolutionizing e-commerce, but they're also on the lookout for talented individuals to join their dynamic team. Looking to be part of a company that values innovation and fosters a vibrant culture? Well, Loop is the place to be. Check out their open positions at loopreturns.com/careers. And here's the scoop. Loop has been recognized by Forbes as one of the next billion-dollar startups of 2023. Want to be part of a success story? Now's your chance. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Head over to loopreturns.com/careers and be part of something extraordinary. Loop, where innovation meets success. Apply now. Support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Nationwide. Nationwide's mission is to protect people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care. To help fulfill that mission, Nationwide is looking to invest its $350 million venture capital investment fund in insurtechs that will help them create new and exciting products and solutions to meet the needs of their customers. If you're interested in partnering with Nationwide's venture capital team, visit nationwideventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is nationwideventures.com. Nationwide is on your side. All right, 614 Startups Nation, we are back with my special guest, Brock Leonti of Prescribe FIT. And Brock, so you got me, man. I'm a healthcare geek. I like to fashion myself as somebody who is being proactive and taking ownership of their health, which is the kind of client that you're trying to, or that's where you want your clients to be when they enroll in this program. But I got to ask, man, all of this didn't happen overnight. There are probably a lot of iterations of this, a lot of changes, a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges. Let's start with what has been your biggest challenge so far?
Oh, sure. So one of the things that is, I guess, an advantage for us, but also is a challenge, is that we are covered by insurance, right? So Medicare came up with these codes in 2018 called remote physiologic monitoring, or probably well-known remote patient monitoring. And those codes, RPM is what that acronym is, are covered by Medicare, Medicaid in most states and most private insurances. And that allows us to monitor a physiologic data point like weight. Other examples would be blood pressure, heart rate, blood glucose, respiratory or airway, metrics. And so as we are covered by insurance, I mean, we had to figure out a way to kind of get through that and have physicians adopt our solution. So just to kind of go back just a second, when we first started, we did not have any coverage for or by insurance. And we were still asking the physician to offer a program. It was a little different than it is right now, but it was still a program that had to do with physical activity and getting up and moving around that the patient would pay for. And of course, as consumers of healthcare or patients in healthcare, right, we expect our healthcare to be covered by insurance. So kind of fell flat on our face, if you be honest. And that was a challenge of a time before, but now I think what we're really looking at is we're on the front end of the RPM or digital health movement. I mean, this is only going to get bigger. Physicians have really shown through national studies or surveys that they want to adopt a digital health solution. Healthcare does tend to be a little bit less willing to be innovative and push the envelope on things, which is fine in some ways, right? We don't want some crazy solutions or treatments to be offered to us as people. We want our bodies to be preserved, but through different education and through validation, especially as we've continued to grow, we were able to show good outcomes for our patients. So that adoption piece has been probably the biggest challenge for us, but it's also the biggest opportunity. If we're able to weather the storm and go through that, which we have successfully, and we're just on the cusp of growth now, and we've actually experienced it, but even more, this is going to be the path for us. So that's been it.
Yeah. So, Columbus is becoming a life sciences town. And one of the biggest challenges where everybody puts their hands up is like FDA approval, right? Anything that has to do with medical device or is getting insurance to pay for it. So the fact that it was your biggest challenge at the outset caused you to pivot, maybe probably moving more from a B2C to more of a B2B play, trying to get into the customer through the orthopedic surgeons. I think that's a fantastic pivot. Now that you have your business model in hand, you have your ideal customer profile, you have a pathway to scaling and monetization. And I've also read that you've raised multiple rounds of funding. A lot of founders who listen to this show are interested in that portion of it, right? We're an up and coming ecosystem. Of course, we need to create more opportunities for access to capital. But what advice do you have for founders who are raising their first round based on your experience so far?
Oh, man. So I would say there's a couple pieces of advice. So what we did, just to kind of give a little wrap up of how we raised this, we did an angel round that we just had. Our original people put some money in. We did when that led to a pre-seed round. Both of those or there's a conglomerate of those really different things, made up about 2 million in funding. Then we did a Series Seed round, which was about 8, and then we just actually are closing our first close on a Series A. Which will be about 5 million for us. So, and that really is made up of 90% of that round is made up of current shareholders investing again in the company, which is awesome. So, we have about 10% that are new, and then 90% that have just said, "Hey, I'm going to give you some additional dollars." And so it's a pretty good, an amazing, I think, show of support for the company and for really what we did too, to help really bring value to our shareholders. So. That I think is the first thing, is really being in contact with your shareholders. We have, if you look at even special purpose vehicles and some of those non-VC, but other things that we put together, about 36 shareholders. So I continuously keep up the relationship and a line of communication to them, and I think that's really important. And then the other thing too is just meeting people. I mean, talking and telling your story all the time. You hear and when another founders are in the room because they're talking about their industry. And I mean, if you got to dinner with them, the conversation goes towards that. So, I try to keep my friends and my family away from that as much as possible, but it's something that you're consumed with and it's always on your mind. And as you show the passion and tell your story, I mean, that's the best thing, is that's where people will invest, yes, sometimes on the balance sheet and on the numbers and your growth and all of that, but they do invest in you, especially being a new founder. And that's, maybe not a new founder, but a new company and a new idea. They really are going to listen to that and your passion. It's all about the team at that point, because if you have the right team, you can really kind of get through it and make it work, right? It's more about the team then.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think as founders, we always take that for granted. It's like, what qualifies you to launch this company, right?
It's imposter
What? Yeah. Who are you to even think you can
Right.
innovate in this space, right? But beyond that, I think what might be something to kind of explore a little bit with you
Mhm.
is the problem that you are solving is probably a problem that is faced by your investors.
Ooh.
Back pain,
Mhm.
knee pain,
Yeah.
right? It's not so far fetched
No, it's not.
to want a solution that you might ultimately see yourself using, which is why it's so important to talk to investors who either experience the problem
Mhm.
or are intimately familiar with it because they're subject matter experts and invest in these types of companies all the time. How important do you think those two things are when going out to raise a round and the folks that you talk to?
I think you hit it perfectly. And I would agree with that 100%, that it is about finding that person's or those people or that entity's true passion or what their thesis is, and going after that. Um, the other piece of this too that we have that supports that is we're a little bit more on the passion side too, right? It's kind of a passion project to help someone lose weight. I mean, our stories are amazing. We've helped someone get, outside of the orthopedic advantages, a lung transplant. They would have died. She was given 6 months to live. And because we helped her lose 40 pounds, it put her in the right criteria for a lung transplant. And now she can enjoy, X number of years more in our life. Like, we've helped people lose 100 or more pounds. We've helped them being able to take vacations that they never were able to take before, or do things that they couldn't do, like get up steps, something so easy, or mow the lawn. I mean, we've had every Thursday we have an all team meeting, and our care coordinators come together and just tell those stories. And there was one, I personally hate mowing my lawn. I mean, I do not like to go outside and start that lawnmower. And I heard, that one of our patients after 10 years is able to mow the lawn, and he was tearing up and crying, because he was able to do that. And I mean, that's awesome. Those are the kind of things that are really connective with people and with investors too. And that's exactly right. So when we meet with people, all the time, they're like, "Oh man, my mother, this sounds like my mother needed this," or my father-in-law, or I did at one point, or still do today. And we have over 20 now, surgeons or physicians that are invested in the company, and that really helps as well. And just to say one more thing about the investment side, to me, I mean, this would work, I guess, in most industries or for most companies, but especially in healthcare, there tend to be a little more conservative and risk averse, right? As they should be. We don't want to offer something to patients that could put them in harm's way, or, that does anything. And for us, we didn't need FDA approval or have those things like that. That wasn't necessary, but we needed to make sure that the solution worked. Like you said, the outcomes were important. So we were able to work with orthopedic surgeons that allowed us to go into their practice and work with their patients on their approval and say, hey, you know what, can we tinker with this a little bit with you? Give us some feedback along the way. Tell us how you think, this is going. What could we do better? What are you feeling challenged by? What's missing? All those kind of things. And because they were investors, their wherewithal to kind of go through that process with us, and listen to the patients and listen to us and just, be more specific and intentional about how they were using our solution, because they were clients too, but also investors. That really helped us. So that strategic investment is a value-rich dollar, right? Very value-rich. It doesn't just come with $1. It comes with a lot more value around that. And that's the biggest thing too, is really looking at that.
That's amazing. When your customers become investors, not just by using your product, but actually investing in the company, that's certainly a vote of confidence. Now, before we kind of wrap here, I want to ask you one question, because you're selling this all-in solution to the orthopedic surgeon, but what does the customer, that guy who had tears in his eyes because he's able to mow his lawn now, what does he get? Does he know he's getting Prescribe FIT? What does the program look like from his perspective? Is it an app? Is it a desktop a browser that he logs into? What do they get?
Great question. Yep. So they do know that they're getting Prescribe FIT. We haven't white labeled this yet. We want to become the name for a program that has to do with lifestyle modification, and doing that through healthcare and with a medical record documentation to it. Because you can go to Noom, you can go to any of those, right, and kind of get a weight solution there that helps you manage your weight. But we want to become relevant in the medical record and the healthcare world. So, and that all helps with value-based care, like you mentioned at the beginning, and many other things, right? So where we are today doesn't mean where we'll be tomorrow. But what we have as a product and offering to that patient, and what they see is Prescribe FIT offered by ABC Orthopedics, right? And Dr. Smith at ABC Ortho is prescribing the program to you that helps you lose weight, improve pain, and mobility. And oftentimes, pain and mobility are even bigger drivers of usage in our program than weight. We have a 82% reduction in pain and an 81% improvement in mobility rate for all patients. And then 89% of our patients lose some sort of weight. On average, it's 5.4% of their body weight. So those are the kind of things that we go to the patient with, and they get an app. It works on the iOS system and the Android system. Currently not desktop, because we needed to have Bluetooth capabilities, and they should have it with them most of the time. Sometimes, if you want like a daily use thing, every morning they're asked to step on a scale that they receive. That scale transmits the weight to the app. They can see that in there. There's a graph. It shows them how their streak is for how many times they've stepped on it. It'll give them sort of like a health education series in there that they can utilize and read through. That sometime that week, they'll have a pre-scheduled call with their coach. So their health coach, Angela, is on the call and gives the patient a call and says, "Hi, Elio, this is Angela. This is your call today. And I want to hear, how did the last week go? We set these goals. What did you do? How would that go? Tell me about it." And you kind of work through that, right? So all those things then come together, and then we just advance the program forward. And I like to explain it like this. When they built the New York City subway system, right, they had their main channels in there. And then they started to dig the little tunnels that led to the additional stops, right? We're like the main channel. We have that main channel, but each patient gets to decide where they go, right? They might take that main channel, but then they're going to go off to the side, and that's personalized to them. And that personalization piece is really what drives further adherence to our program and better outcomes. So we listen more than we speak and offer something, right? And we get that insight back from the patient, and then they're able to offer that. And our next steps are kind of to get smarter with that through technology, AI, and some other things too. So we're putting those in this year.
Yeah, a lot of interaction between Prescribe FIT and the customer, and not doing it for them, but having them take ownership, right? I've used an app, Headspace Care.
Yeah.
that does a very effective job of that. And so I really think, like you said, this is the future of digital healthcare.
Mhm.
It's interacting with people and helping them take control of their own outcomes. All right, man. Final question.
Sure.
What's next for you and your company, and how can the 614 Startups community support you?
Oh, that's a great question. So what's next for us is growth. I mean, what we're looking at is further adoption of our solution into practices across the US. We're not bound necessarily by any state lines or anything like that. So we go from Hawaii to New Jersey and then all across the United States. We grew 3x last year, 3 times last year, and we're looking at least that this year. And I think one of the biggest things is, I like to just connect with any founders that have a passion that's even in a similar area or a passion for anything. I mean, I think that's great. So I always, I think those founders groups and like really getting with other founders is a great thing, because it is lonely. It is, isolating to kind of be in that founder position. I mean, you've started the company and you let it go. Right now we have 65 folks that are part of Prescribe FIT. We have 5 more that are starting next month, and we'll continue to grow at about that rate or more into our future. So that, the other piece too then is anybody knows anybody that wants to become part of our revolution and work here, we'd love to accept you as a care coordinator or other role. I mean, we have things that are opening up often. So those are some of the things, but it's growth. I mean, that's really what it's all about now. After your Series A, now you look at the numbers and you say, okay, well, this number better be bigger than that one, right? So,
Yeah, that's right, man. And well, you have a lot to be proud of, and I know a mission that you can be passionate about. You're out there changing people's lives, and you're making a difference. And so, a couple of things, guys. Hey, if you got that knee pain, that back pain, and you can't do it on your own, and you need to go see an ortho, tell them about Prescribe FIT. Hey, can I have access to Prescribe FIT? If not, give them the website. Let them reach out to Brock and his team. They want to help. And like he said, if you're looking for a new career opportunity, check out the Prescribe FIT careers page. Get involved with that. See if you can find an opportunity that works for you. And then he loves to network, right? Can they hit you up on LinkedIn or something?
yeah.
Okay. Any founders that might want to chat, that would be awesome. So reach out to Brock. And hopefully, man, we could get you involved in some of the 614 Startups events so you could share your experiences with founders in person. All right, Brock, thank you so much for being on the show. This is my final word and the thing that I resonated with that you shared, in addition to all the things that you've done with your company, which is the resilience piece. You gotta be tough in this business. If you're a founder, you got to be prepared to hear no. And you have to be prepared to go all the way to the edge of your business, almost failing at any point, and still hang on and believe and continue to do what you do because you matter. What you're building is going to help people, and we want to see you succeed here in the 614 Startups community. All right, folks, that was my final word. Brock has been here. He's been ultra gracious with his time. We really appreciate you. And folks, follow us, social media, YouTube, everywhere, and share it with your friend. This is where we want to support entrepreneurs to help them be successful. Until next time, peace. That's a wrap, folks. You can find this and all our episodes on our website, 614startups.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and all your favorite podcasting platforms. Don't forget to subscribe and write a review. If you'd like updates sent directly to your inbox, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter on the website. To engage in the 614 Startups community, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 614 Startups on all platforms and join the conversation. For sponsorship opportunities and collaborations, email us at info@614startups.com.